Good evening, Toastmasters, and a special good morning to Toastmaster Samantha Neyland. Welcome you all to Season 2, Episode 4 of Beyond Toastmasters, a District 98 initiative. I'm Toastmaster Ravi Teja Peri, and I'm currently serving as the Area Director for Area G4. Beyond Toastmasters is a series of talk episodes by accomplished speakers who are not only proficient Toastmasters, but also a great thought leaders. The Beyond Toastmasters initiative aligns with Toastmasters International mission, which is to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. At Beyond Toastmasters, we believe that Toastmasters International doesn't alone make you exemplary speakers and leaders. In fact, the lessons learned in this journey help you hone your life skills, skills that contribute to your success and beyond Toastmasters. Along with our core motto of influencing your leader journey, our efforts are directed towards achieving District 98 mission, which is we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. We hold the value of Toastmaster International in the highest regard and shall adhere to guidelines set forth by Toastmasters International throughout the session. The first guideline is I request the guests to switch off the video for better bandwidth. Secondly, chat will be disabled. However, a guest can send messages to hosts and co-hosts for any assistance. The third one is if a guest has a question to the speaker, he or she can send it to the moderator over a private chat. These questions will be taken after the session. On this note, let's start off yet another inspiring episode of Beyond Toastmasters on a beautiful mind which speaks and inspires. Before we take this session further, join me in welcoming the moderator for today, Toastmaster Meghashree. She's a Toastmaster for over 2 years now and served as a VP PR and VP Education for her home club, a podium finisher of division contest at Table Topics in the year 2020. She believes Toastmasters has helped her become more structured with her speech delivery and made her more a confident person. Apart from that, she also been a part of beauty pageant at state level. She is known for perfection and she's very particular about things, let me tell you. With this, I request the Zoom master to please spotlight Toastmaster Meghashree, the moderator for Beyond Toastmasters, episode number 4. Over to you.
Megha, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've done that. Well, thank you, Toastmaster Ravi. That introduction really pumped me up. Anyways, hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all the lovely attendees from across different geographies. I feel extremely elated to welcome you all to Season 2, Episode 4 of Beyond Toastmasters, a District 98 initiative that lets us learn from people like us who made it big in their lives with their sheer grit and compassion. Well, not so long ago, beauty of a person was generally attributed to the face value. But now the definition has all changed. Beauty is only skin deep. Beauty is a quality that shines from within and exalts the spirits. The positive impact that you bring in others' life is what makes you beautiful. On this note, let me introduce you to one such confidently beautiful woman who dons multitude of personas, Samantha Neyland, Miss Hawaii 2020. Can we have a quick focus on Samantha and a virtual applause, everyone? While many may have known her for the tiara, Samantha is also a certified life coach and a passionate Toastmaster. She's a successful model and an actor. A traveling enthusiast, Samantha credits her life views to the multitude of cultures that she was exposed to during her growing years. Born and bred in a military family, Samantha is dedicated to serve the community. She is a strong believer that power of communication can help bridge the cultural and political divides among the youths. We are so very excited to have with us Samantha Neyland, who shall talk to us on a beautiful mind that speaks and inspires. Brace yourselves as Samantha Neyland, Miss Hawaii 2020, takes the spotlight. May I request the Zoom master to spotlight Samantha?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Have you ever seen a movie with a really good sports montage? I'm talking at the beginning of the montage, the character is not very good. They fall down, they get back up, they fall down, they get back up. And eventually they start to get it. And then they get a little bit better and a little bit better. And they're gaining strength and power and confidence. And by the end, they are a completely different person than they were at the beginning. That was me in middle school PE. Except I didn't get better and become a different person at the end. I was really kind of stuck in the beginning of the montage where I was falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up and then falling again. In my middle school, in PE, physical education, we had skills test where we were scored on our ability to complete different sports, different activities. So we were graded on whether or not we could serve a volleyball over the net, whether or not we could shoot a basketball from the free throw line and then the three-pointer line. I couldn't do any of these things. I was just not great with anything involving hand-eye coordination. And my family is very athletic. My mom went to college on a full gymnastics scholarship. And my dad was an Army Ranger, which if you don't know is the special forces of the Army. So he's very athletic. And my older brother can do everything. So here I was in middle school, failing PE because I couldn't serve a volleyball over the net. I was a straight A student, except for PE, which should be an easy A. Everyone gets an A in PE, except for me. Now, I could have let this ruin my self-esteem. I could have been really down on myself, really embarrassed because I couldn't do something that seemed to be so easy for everyone else. But I took it as an opportunity to say, okay, maybe sports aren't for me. I'm just not good at this, and that's fine. I turned out to be a great runner, a really good cheerleader, even kickbox for a little bit. But any sport that involved a ball, I couldn't do it, which is about 90% of sports, which is why I failed PE. But this lesson of knowing that my self-worth was not tied to my failures or my successes would prove to be really important when I started my journey in pageantry. Pageantry is all about getting on stage, performing, and then the winner is selected by a panel of judges. You're subjecting yourself to being judged by strangers who only get a few opportunities to try to know you and know who you are. So you can't let the decision of 5 random strangers define you and define your worth and your ability to be successful. When I was 16, I was at the mall with my parents, and a group of teenage pageant girls walked by. They looked so happy, so confident, and I wanted to be like them. I told my parents that I wanted to do a pageant, and they were very confused. They looked at me, looked at each other, and said, "You want to do what?" I mean, I came from a very athletic family. We did sports, even though I was bad at them. We did them. No one had any experience with a pageant. I didn't have any experience with a pageant. I had never seen a pageant, but I saw the confidence that those teenage girls had, and I wanted that. I signed up to compete in my first pageant at 16. I had no idea what was going on, but I had a great time. I didn't win. but I enjoyed being there because I knew from failing middle school PE that my self-worth wasn't defined by whether I won or didn't win. I knew that I would be okay. But I also, because of middle school PE, thought maybe this just isn't my thing. This could be something where I try and fail and try and fail. Do I really want to try multiple times? Maybe I should just move on. Well, my parents weren't ready to let me move on. They thought it could be your thing. You should keep going, keep trying. Try at least one more time. So I signed up for Miss Hawaii Teen USA in 2013. And this time, I wanted to approach it a little bit differently. I remembered that the reason I wanted to do pageantry in the first place was because I wanted to be more confident. I wanted to be happy and feel good about myself. So this time, instead of focusing on winning the crown, I focused on achieving that next level of personal growth, becoming a better version of myself. I won Miss Hawaii Teen USA in 2013. And when they announced me as the winner, I was shocked. I stood there so confused, looking around, didn't know what to do next because I didn't expect it. I almost forgot that winning was a possibility because I was so focused on the growth that I could achieve just for competing, just for being a part of that journey. I loved being the title holder. I had so many opportunities to grow, and I was just becoming more and more confident every single step of the way. I had a full year of having that title, wearing it across my chest, and embracing the opportunities that came my way. So fast forward 5 years, I'm now an adult, and I found myself in a place where I stopped growing. I was stagnant. I kind of plateaued. And when you look at plants in nature, when they stop growing, they're dying. And I don't want to do that. I knew I needed to be growing. And I remembered how much I grew from that first pageant experience as a teenager. And I knew pageantry would once again give me the push I needed to continue growing, to become that better version of myself once again. So I said, okay, I'm jumping back into pageantry. I need this. I know it can help me, and I know I will be better for doing it. At the time, I was living in California, and I signed up to compete in a local pageant, a preliminary to the Miss California USA pageant. My first pageant, I worked really hard. I felt like, okay, I've done this before. It's work, but I know what I'm doing. I should be great. I didn't win. And I was disappointed. I felt like, how could I not win? I worked so hard for this. But I also realized that I was focused on winning the crown. And just like my very first pageant, when I was focused on winning the crown, I didn't win. So I knew that I needed to try again, and I needed to focus once again on my personal growth, because that was the whole point. I kept losing sight of this, and I would lose sight of it a few times over my pageant journey, but it wasn't until I would remember why I was there in the first place and what was actually available to win other than the crown that I would also succeed and also win the crown. So when I signed up to compete in my second local pageant, Miss Beverly Hills, this is actually when I found Toastmasters. Because Toastmasters is an organization that is all about growing, all about learning and becoming a better speaker and a better communicator. It was like the megaphone was calling me saying, this is where you need to come if you want to grow. So I marched right into my first Toastmasters meeting. I was terrified, but I knew I was in good company because I was in a room full of other people who knew that it was important to keep growing and keep learning. When I competed for Miss Beverly Hills, I won, and I was so pumped because that meant that I got to compete at Miss California USA. And the California pageant is one of the biggest state pageants. It's notorious for actually being one of the hardest. So I knew my work was cut out for me. I expanded my resources, reached out to everyone I knew, asked for help, asked for feedback, and just stretched myself so that I could expand upon the learning and multiply it by 10. When I competed for Miss California USA, I placed second runner-up out of 73 women. It was a huge accomplishment. I felt like I had performed my best pageant performance to date. I was so proud of the growth that I had achieved, so proud of myself for the hard work. But it really stung because I felt like I had done my best, but my best wasn't good enough. And that was really hard to wrap my head around. I kind of sulked in that for a few months before I was able to move on. And it kept sticking with me because I couldn't understand why it was so hard to move on. And then I remembered middle school PE. Yes, I had approached this pageant with the mindset of, I'm going to become a better person. But I had also attached my value and my worth to the opinion of these judges. I had let my successes and my failures be defined or define my self-worth. And that was the whole point. That's something I learned very early on that I can't do. So when I moved back to Hawaii and decided to compete for Miss Hawaii USA, I knew that I had to approach the pageant differently. I knew that the entire goal had to be about me, that nobody else's opinion was going to define me, that maybe I would win, maybe not, but it didn't matter. The whole point was going to be about reaching a new level, a new personal growth level. And if I didn't win, great. I could be done because I would finally have achieved the goal from the very beginning, which was to grow, to keep growing. When I woke up the morning of Miss Hawaii USA, I knew I won. I didn't know if I would win the crown. I secretly hoped I would win the crown, but I knew that I won because I finally had achieved that growth goal that I had set for myself 2 years prior. I was fortunate at the pageant to win, yes, but also win the Best Interview Award, which to me was the highlight. I didn't even care about the crown at that point because I won the Best Interview Award, which just showed that I had achieved that growth. Because that was the whole reason I joined Toastmasters. I knew my interview was my weakest link, and I knew I needed to get better at those skills. And I did it. I was rewarded by winning Best Interview. That is the hardest award in pageantry to win. I was so proud. When they named me as the winner, I was excited, but I was already on cloud 9 because all I heard was Best Interview. I took that mindset with me, that strategy with me when I prepared for Miss USA. But I was a little torn because I knew I wanted to focus on growth. I knew that helped me so much, so many times before. But I also really wanted to give myself the best chance at winning Miss USA because it's such a huge opportunity. And I put so much into it. I had actually 9 months to prepare for Miss USA because it kept getting delayed due to the coronavirus. I used those 9 months very wisely and found every single opportunity to better myself. But as I got closer, I wondered, how would I feel if I didn't win? Would I feel the way I felt the morning of Miss Hawaii USA? Like I was good no matter what? Or would I feel like I did after Miss California USA, where I felt defeated and deflated? I was so torn because I really wanted to win, but I also wanted to set myself up to just be proud of who I was. At Miss USA, on the night of finals, I was called into the top 16. We competed, and then I was called into the top 10. We competed again. I was standing in the top 10, and they're announcing the names for the top 5 positions. As I stood there, I knew that my name would be called. I knew that I was meant to be in that top 5. I deserved to be in that top 5. I had earned my spot. And I stood there calmly as they called the first name, the second name, the third name, and the fourth. I just knew that last spot was mine, and it felt so good to know that. And then they called someone else. I was surprised. And I stood there and I thought, wow, I feel great. I feel great. I did it. I made it to Miss USA. I made it to the top 10. It almost felt like I was playing dodgeball with marshmallows. Like I got hit, but it didn't hurt. It was just a marshmallow. And that to me was huge. I didn't even realize that through this entire pageant journey, I was becoming resilient. The process of focusing on yourself and letting yourself succeed and fail, it teaches you how to be resilient. It teaches you that you're going to be okay no matter what. And that resilience has changed the way that I see everything, and it's changed the way I see every challenge. And it changes the way that I approach my life now. I'm currently working with a state senator and a state representative in Hawaii to pass a bill that would establish June 19th as a day of remembrance in Hawaii. June 19th in the United States is the day that slavery officially ended back in 1865. And most states have already taken the steps to recognize this day in history. But my state of Hawaii hasn't done it yet. And I felt like as Miss Hawaii USA, as the first African-American Miss Hawaii USA, I needed to change that. I needed to lead the effort to do something that should be automatic. It should have already been done. I am now taking the resilience I learned from pageantry, the not letting anything define me that I learned from middle school PE, and I'm applying that to this new journey that I find myself in now. As I look forward to finishing this experience and finding out what my biggest takeaway from this will be, I find myself so excited because I'm facing challenges and facing adversity, but every time I faced a challenge and adversity in the past, I've been able to learn something. I've been able to grow from it. Each of us has a unique life with our own unique experiences, and we can let our experiences shape us or swallow us. I choose to let my experiences shape me. And the difference would be, if we go back to middle school PE, letting it shape me was letting it turn into a lesson of realizing that I'm not going to be good at everything. I'm not going to succeed at everything, and that's okay. But if I let it swallow me, I would have let it ruin my self-esteem. I maybe never would have wanted to go to a gym in public or work out in public because I'd be too embarrassed that I wasn't good enough or I didn't know enough about my body or how to do different physical activities. But I didn't. I chose the other way. I chose to let it shape me. I could have quit after my very first pageant and just decided that it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't something I was capable of doing. It wasn't a possibility. But I didn't. I fell down and I got back up multiple times. And winning the crown was amazing, but it was the skills and talents that I learned along the way that are the real treat. Those are the things that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. in this new experience of Juneteenth, of trying to get a law made, I'm realizing that everything in life is a challenge. All the good things are challenges. And the more we welcome our challenges, the more we set ourselves up for a life of fulfillment, a life of happiness, and a life of success. So I challenge all of you to ask yourselves, what experiences in your life are you facing right now? And are you letting them shape you, or are you letting them swallow you? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. It was so profound. It was definitely a very lively talk. There is so much that we all as youth need to learn. One lesson that I definitely learned today is my failures don't indicate my self-worth. And just like me, many of the attendees over here have had some great learnings from today's session. I believe after this, each one of us has become smarter and wiser than we were some time back. Okay, on this note, we'll have a Q&A session. Well, during the registration, we did receive some very interesting questions, which we shall take now. And I encourage all the attendees to send me in their questions on the private chat so that we also take it up with Samantha. So are we ready with the Q&A session? Good to go? Great. Well, Samantha, just a very curious question, and that's from my end. You did an amazing movie named Pushing the Limits. How closely do you relate to the character Raven?
Wow, yes. I think now I just try to push the limits at all times, because there's been so many times that I've found myself doing something that I didn't think I could do, and it works out. Sometimes it's not as easy as I thought. Sometimes it turns into a much bigger project than I originally intended. But I think growth is a gift. Anytime we realize that we have growth that yet to be achieved, it's a gift, because that means there's somewhere to go. If there's nowhere else to go, you get bored. It's almost like playing a video game. When you reach the last level, you stop playing.
True. So we can say the Raven of 2015 is now Samantha of 2021.
Yes, I love that.
Great. So there is another interesting question, and this is from Raju Matta. He asks, how can we maintain a calm yet a genuinely attractive personality when we are there in a social gathering?
Yes, my biggest tip for having confidence when you're speaking with other people is to just think about what you can offer them. So if being in a social situation is not something you're typically comfortable with, just thinking what you can offer the other person, whether that's support, whether it's laughter, anything really, just finding out what that is will make you more comfortable, because anytime you can take the focus off of yourself and put it on somebody else, you're going to feel way more at ease than you were 5 minutes before.
Absolutely. Okay, there is another question from Samir Sitar, who asks, Samantha, you have been in many competitions right out when you're a teenager. So how did you overcome from this trauma of mental blockages? Because that does happen many times. We do suffer from mental blockages. How did you overcome from that?
Absolutely. I think you have to just acknowledge why you're doing it in the first place and remember that. It's so easy to forget. I think I forgot so many times through my pageant journey why I was there, why I even originally wanted to compete in pageants. And anytime you can remind yourself of your why, your purpose, it absolutely helps. I always say self-awareness is the key to personal growth. And you develop more self-awareness by talking things out, by journaling, and consciously reflecting. So the more you consciously reflect, which is what I was doing during pageantry, the more you remember your purpose, your why, and what matters to you.
True that. Okay, there is another question coming from Chishti Basha. He's writing, many a times we feel low and are too scared to move forward. Despite introspections, we fail to realize our own potential. How does one pull himself or herself out of that pit and stay alive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to ask yourself what you're really afraid of. Are you afraid of change? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of success? There was a time when I was absolutely afraid of success. And I think sometimes people don't realize that the fear of success is just as common as the fear of failure, because the fear of success really is the fear of change or imposter syndrome. It's thinking that, what if everything works out perfectly, but I'm not good enough for it, or I don't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something that you can address, but you got to figure out what you're actually afraid of in order to break through. You name it to tame it.
Right. So to all my attendees, to all the attendees, find your fear, break it down, and arise.
Yeah.
Okay, there is another question from Yash Maheshwari. He's writing, during competitions, it's judges' rating that defines your worth during the competitions. Isn't it natural to feel self-worth being evaluated if you don't do well? Did you question it ever?
That definitely is normal, but they're not defining your self-worth. They're just defining your placement in this one competition. So I always tell people, imagine 5 strangers on the street came up to you and told you whether or not you were successful or whether or not you deserved an opportunity. Would you let that affect you? I mean, the 5 people you've never met, they don't know anything about you, and they're telling you something important. Why does their opinion matter? You don't know them and they don't know you. It's exactly the same. Pageantry really is so subjective. If the pageant was a different night with a different set of judges, there could be a different winner, because it's like asking somebody to pick a color. Do you like red or green? If they say red, that doesn't mean they hate green. They just had to pick one and they picked red. Everyone can't win, and that's the sad part. But eventually you get to a point where all of the women left standing are talented, intelligent, accomplished, and they all could be the title holder, but they have to pick one. So it's not personal. They just have to pick somebody, and maybe it was you, maybe it wasn't you, but that doesn't define anything other than that one opportunity.
Right. So yeah, pageants and things like these are so subjective that you cannot actually define it well. So what suits the eye, what suits the person's mentality, well, that is what will reflect. So that does not mean you will feel down or doubt upon your worth. Take the learning and go ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why you have to have a different goal set for yourself.
Right.
My goal was growth and confidence. That way you know you can win something that's in your control, because the crown is never in your control.
Definitely. Okay, this is one question from an keen observer who is writing. It's from Kunal Jani. He writes, I can see books, so many books behind you, implying that you like to read. What hobbies other than reading has helped you develop as a person or a leader?
Ooh, I love that question. There's definitely a lot of books back here, but actually most of them are movie scripts. Yeah, and I just think it's so fun to read a movie script, especially after you've seen the movie, because you see the movie and then you read it on the page and it's so different. It's really interesting. Wow, I don't know. I feel like I don't have that many hobbies, because everything that I like, I find a way to turn into a career. That's why I have way too many jobs. But I will say that I do love to dance just for fun. I think usually at least once a day, I'll give myself a 5-minute dance break, because it boosts my energy, and it's also just fun and there's no pressure. I'm not trying to be a professional dancer. I'm just laughing and having a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, this is one question from Ashutosh Kumar. It's a very good question, in fact. You travel, Samantha, you have traveled different places, built up different relation to different strangers. So how good or how difficult that entire situation has been for you? And how do you deal with it?
I like traveling a lot. I have to say, I don't like flying, or really, I don't like getting to the airport, because getting to the airport always stresses me out because there's so many rules at the airport and I always feel like I'm doing all of them wrong. But actually traveling is great, and being in different cultures is incredible because you can learn so many different things from different people. Everyone does things differently, and I think it's really exciting to be able to learn how a different culture does something, and then you can pick and choose what things you want to adopt into your own life. So my family lived in Spain and Japan before we moved to Hawaii, and there just were so many different things. I mean, those cultures could not be more different, but they were both incredible. And I remember Japan more because I was older when I lived there, but there's so many things from Japanese culture that I do now as an adult. In Japan, you don't wear your shoes in the house. You take them off immediately when you come inside. And to me, that just is automatic now. Anytime I come in the house or go in anybody else's house, I immediately take my shoes off. And in American culture, that's actually not very common. People think it's weird, but having lived in Japan, I just think it's normal, and I think it's weird when people don't take their shoes off.
Okay, that's nice. The more you travel, you build up a culture, you get acquainted to different cultures. Okay, here is one question from Kirti Raj, and a question very similar to that by Jasmine Joy. The question says, how you carry yourselves is very important. And could you please share some tips for effectively handling body shaming scenarios, or in some situation where you have encountered that you have heard something very harshest being said to you or someone else? How do you deal with it?
Absolutely. People, it's hard, especially with the internet and social media. Everybody feels like they have a voice in social media, which is great, but some people also use that as an opportunity to put down others. And honestly, people who do that, they're not very confident in themselves. Confident people don't put down other people because there's no point. They lift other people up. So I think that's something you have to remember, that the person who's saying that to you is probably not feeling good themselves, and they might even feel bad about the thing they're specifically saying. So if they're body shaming you, it's probably because they don't feel good about their own body. And it usually helps me to have that empathy, to at least have a little bit of that empathy, because you understand it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them and their insecurities. And that's sad. When somebody picks on you, it hurts, but at the same time, it's sad because they're clearly suffering, and that's why they're doing it. And when it does affect you, that's normal and that's okay. But I think it's important to acknowledge that it's affecting you and then decide what you want to do about it. So I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I made an acceptance list. So I wrote down all the things that I accept about myself, because I realized I was insecure about some things. So I wrote down little things and big things. Like I wrote, I accept that my laugh is really loud. I accept that I'm different, or I accept, I mean, it was a full list. It was 2 pages maybe. And it was awesome because it was great to see. And then I went back and I read it out loud a few times, and I could feel the things that felt weird to say out loud. And that's how I knew that I needed to say them out loud even more, because clearly I wasn't 100% confident in them yet. But that's something that you can work
on. Okay. Confident people stand for others to be more confident.
Absolutely.
So now that we are talking about confidence, here is a very interesting question from Manoj Mata, who writes, how can we deal with overconfidence? Confidence is good. How do you deal with overconfidence?
Overconfidence. I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, cockiness is a thing, but I would say that cockiness is probably actually insecurity disguised as confidence. Because if you just feel good about yourself, you feel good about yourself. That's great. But when you take it to the next level of being cocky, usually what that is, when people use that word to describe somebody, usually what they're saying is that person's confident. They're so confident that they're putting other people down. And that goes back to what I just said of when you're putting other people down, you're probably not feeling good about yourself. So if you reach that level, or if you see somebody who's at that level, it's probably because they're faking it and they're hiding something else, a deeper issue that's going on.
Yeah. Okay, here we have someone. Yeah. Pavan. Pavan, he's very interested in you wearing that crown once. Because he feels if he sees the crown on you, that will bring him on a sense of achievement that can inspire all of us.
This one, you want to put this one?
You could just wear it.
It's actually really heavy. Yeah, it's really heavy. And so this year I was kind of glad that I was not happy to be in quarantine, but I was glad that I didn't have as many events in public because I didn't have to wear it. Because when I was the teen, I wore it all the time and I had a dent in my head because it's heavier than it looks. But I'm not the current title holder anymore, so I'm not really supposed to wear it. But it's like, you get a hint of what it looks like.
Hope that inspires Pavan to wear his crown of achievement.
Yeah.
Okay, this is one question coming from Akshay Singh, who writes, how does the interaction go when you meet any youth who shares how inspiring you have been to them? I'll just frame it in a better way. How does the interaction go when you meet a youth who share similar ideologies as you do, and how it's inspiring to you and that person?
That's awesome. I love when that happens. I try to just encourage people. I think sometimes people can get stuck in aspiration versus inspiration. And I like to think of the difference as aspiration is, it would be somebody coming up to me and saying, oh, you're so great. I love that. That's awesome. And then inspiration would be if I hand it back to them and say, thank you so much. You can do it too. So it's giving them the feeling that they can also achieve the success they've seen in somebody else. So I always try to empower people and just hand that inspiration back and let them realize they're exactly the same as me. Like, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm figuring it out. And they can be on that journey too.
And that is what is being beautiful, but that nurtures a beautiful soul. Okay, this is one question from Shahid Alam, who asks, did you ever face naysayers and how did you deal with it?
Of course. You're always going to find some negativity, but I don't know, there were definitely times when I would let it get to me, but I realized, fortunately, that when I was letting it get to me was when I wasn't feeling confident enough in myself. So it's almost like a confidence check when somebody says something negative or demeaning to you, because it lets you know where you stand. Are you at a place where you are resilient, where you can just play dodgeball with marshmallows and let things fall right off? Or are you at a place where things hurt much more and they really hit you? And that's okay if it does, but that's good to know and good to acknowledge, because then you can switch over and play dodgeball with marshmallows. It's much better.
That's good. Okay, this is one question coming from Krishnakant. If given an opportunity, which former beauty pageant winner would you love to interview or be their life coach?
Oh gosh. Well, interviewing somebody and being their life coach would be two totally different things. Wow. Gosh, there's so many. I actually recently saw an interview with a former Miss Universe from South Africa. Her name was Demi Lee, and she was talking about confidence and how that was something she had struggled with. And she kind of gave advice to people about how they could become more confident and what her journey to confidence looked like. And I did think about how interesting it would be to life coach somebody like her who has been so successful, and to just see what else they have going on, what's going on under the surface, and help them break through and become even more successful. Because when I'm coaching people, I'm learning myself, I'm helping them, but they're also helping me, because I'm just experiencing life through somebody else's point of view, and it's so interesting.
True that. Okay. So this one question is from Surekha Tandra. You have been a Toastmaster since 2018. How did you apply skills you learned in Toastmasters in your personal relationships?
Oh, that's a great question. I just love Toastmasters because I think there's so many things you can learn, not just how to give a speech. I think you learn how to talk to all different kinds of people. And I think it's probably a level 1, maybe a level 2 project where you learn about leadership styles and communication styles. So I'm a very direct communicator. I like to just get to the point. But I realized that not everybody likes that. And some people communicate in different ways. So going through that project has really helped me, because I think I'm able to see how other people communicate. I'm able to assess it quicker and know, okay, they communicate like this, so that's how I need to communicate if I want to get something from them, or if I need their help with something. And just knowing that is great, because figuring out how to adjust to meet people where they're at is a game changer. It changes everything, because you're making them more comfortable.
Great. Okay, this is one more question from Akshay, who asks, can you share any experience that you learned while coaching others?
Yes. So everything's confidential, so I'm not sharing details. But the one thing that I've really noticed is people who seem to have it all together on the outside, seem to be perfect, often are the ones who are really struggling, because they're prioritizing presentation and not prioritizing what's inside. So they have this beautiful package, but then the mess is just a mess. It's like when you have a clean room and you just shove everything in the closet. But my job as a life coach is to open that door, and then everything comes flooding out. And that doesn't mean we can't work through it. That doesn't mean you can't put things back in the closet nicely, but it just means there's something in there that you're avoiding or closing off, and it just needs to be addressed.
Right. Okay, this one question, I think this question is shared by both Aishwarya Anand and Sarika Bahale, who asked, what is your definition of beauty?
I love that. I think beauty really is something that comes from the inside out, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everybody has different preferences, but when you really shine from the inside, when you let your heart come through and you share that with the world, it's beautiful, it's great, and that's what people want to see. I mean, you can have great hair and that's awesome, but if there's nothing else going on inside, your hair is not going to get you so far. Nobody cares what your hair looks like, but they care who you are as a person.
So Aishwarya and Sarika, you guys are also very beautiful. Okay, this is one question from Abhimanyu Wazir. He's asking, I believe in your journey, there might be situations in which people did not believe in you. It's very much possible that they might demotivate you and ask you to not follow your passion. How did you keep yourself motivated and never give up during that time?
Oh, I love that. I've definitely been underestimated or undervalued, but I think anytime you're underestimated, it's a gift, because they're not giving you the time of day. They're not expecting you to be as wonderful as you are. So when they underestimate you, they're giving you the upper hand because they're not looking. And when they're not looking, you can just work really hard, become who you need to become, and then you show up and you knock everybody's socks off, and their minds are going to be blown because they didn't expect it. So really, it's a beautiful gift. It's like if you watch a boxing match and one boxer thinks, oh, okay, and they turn around and then suddenly the other person knocks them out. I'm not promoting physical violence, but I'm just saying it's a good metaphor for somebody not paying attention to you. And when they're not paying attention, that just gives you the space to succeed and break through glass ceilings because they're not guarding it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just my question, because I believe when you do something, there are some key influencers in your life, or there are situations in your life that push you to take up a certain thing. So who have been the key influencers in your life that you have looked upon and decided, okay, this is the path I want to take up?
I really like Angela Bassett. She is an actress, an activist. I think she produces as well. If you've ever seen Black Panther, the movie, she is the queen, the mother.
Yes.
And she is awesome. I love her. She's so strong and powerful and confident. I think she's so amazing that so her name's Angela Bassett. I named my alter ego Baby Bassett so that I can just embody her power and her strength. And it just makes me feel so good and so warm because I mean, she's just incredible. And I love that. And that's what I want to aspire to. That's what I want to grow up and be like, because it's just awesome. I feel like she's loving every moment of her life.
That's lovely. Now that we spoke about Black Panther, there is one question from Akshay again, who asks, what superpower do you wish to have?
Ooh, I wish I could speak every language, honestly. That would be great. I don't know if that qualifies as a superpower, but I would love that. I spoke Spanish when I was a kid, and I've been trying to relearn because I've just forgotten so much of it. And it's hard. And I'm busy and I don't have as much time to dedicate to it as I want to, because I mean, when I have free time, I kind of just want to sleep because I do so many things. But I just think it would be so cool to be able to speak every language and communicate with everybody. Because there's a lot of communication that's nonverbal, but if you are able to have a conversation with everybody, it just would be really exciting.
Right. Okay, this one question is again from Shahid Alam, who is very curious to know whether your academics did affect your drive towards your passion ever. How did you balance both?
I would say yes, it definitely did. I think when I was a senior in high school and I was Miss Hawaii Teen USA and I had started modeling already, I don't think I gave as much time to school as I should have. I still did a good job. For the most part, I think I had all A's and 1 C, but that C was really me being a little lazy. I could have worked harder to get a better grade in that one class, but I was doing so many other things that I felt like, well, what do I need that one class for? It's fine. So I just was a little lazy at that point. But it worked out. I mean, I started college. I didn't finish because I realized that I wanted to learn through life experience, and I didn't want to be told what classes I had to take. So I left college and I kept learning. I was always enrolled in some class, but I was just very specific about it because I don't know if it's different in India, but in US in college, they tell you what classes you have to take. You have your core classes. So your major will say, oh, these are the classes you need to take to graduate, but everybody has to take like math, a science, electives. And I just felt like it was a waste of time and it's so expensive. I just thought, well, I want to learn, but I want to learn what I want to learn. So I didn't do that. And I ended up just being very specific. And there were times when I took all acting classes. There were times when I took business classes, now taking life coach classes. So I love education, but I just enjoy being a little more specific with it.
Lovely. Okay, there's one question. It's the last question that we will be taking for today. This question is from Supriya Laddu, and it's a very funny one. Some fashion tips that you would want to give to the girls.
Fashion tips? Oh gosh. I wear a lot of hand-me-downs, and just I have an older cousin who gives me clothes when she's throwing them out, and I just love it because then I don't have to buy anything. But I tend to wear a lot of solid colors, and when I do buy things, I only buy solid colors because I just think it's so much easier to match solid colors than when you have a bunch of prints. And you could make more outfits. Like, this is just a white shirt, but this is an outfit I could maybe put on different jewelry and it would be a different outfit. It's just so much easier when things are simple.
True. It's again a very personal choice. Anything you wear that makes you confident, makes you feel good, that's your fashion tip.
Yeah.
Okay, with this, we really had a very interesting question and answering session, and you have been really candid about it. It was really amazing. With this, we conclude the Q&A session. So next, I would like to call Toastmaster Alpha, a core team member of Beyond Toastmasters, to deliver the vote of thanks. So Toastmaster Alpha is an active member for over 1.5 years and is currently serving at the office of president at her home club. She is also a key member of District 98 Design and PR team. So with this, may I request the Zoom master to spotlight Toastmaster Alpha.
Thank you, Toastmaster Megha. My heartfelt gratitude to Toastmaster Samantha for supplementing your wisdom through this session on a beautiful mind that speaks and inspires. We acknowledge the effort that it takes on a theme My heartfelt gratitude. Sorry for the disturbance. I just got a power cut. Yeah. My heartfelt gratitude to Toastmaster Samantha for sharing us the knowledge which she had on beauty that speaks and inspires. Well, with this, let me acknowledge the role players for today's meeting. I request the Zoom master to please share the screen. Thank you, Zoom master. Let me acknowledge the key role players for today's meet. Toastmaster Akshita and Toastmaster Harsha, who have helped us with this Zoom-in experience. The timers, Toastmaster Meghna and Toastmaster Shrikant, who have helped us to be on time. With this, we are at the end of episode 4, season 2 of Beyond Toastmasters. I request and thank you for all those who have attended this session of Beyond Toastmasters. With this, I declare this meeting as closed, and I wish you all a happy, good night and stay safe. And stay tuned till the next meeting of Beyond Toastmasters. Thank you and
Yeah, I request you all to please switch on your videos. We'll capture this moment. Thank you. Zoom Master, please let us know once you capture the screenshot.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for people to switch on the videos. There's still quite a lot who did not. Can everyone switch on your videos? I'll give you like 15 seconds and we'll take the screenshot if you guys miss this opportunity. So I guess that's all the people who can switch on the videos right now. So put your poses. I'll capture the photo in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Let's take another one. You can put an informal pose if you want to write in the second picture. Taking the photo in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you.